Thank you very much. Our next item is to review a request to place a Black Lives Matter sign at Mcclatchy Park. I welcome Mario Lara, Director of Youth Parks and Community Enrichment.
Thank you, Chair Good and honorable members of the Commission. The item before you, this item number 5, is to review a request that we received to erect a Black Lives Matter sign at Mcclatchy Park, and to also pass a motion to recommend to the City Council to either A, deny the request, or B, approve the sign placement by accepting the sign as the City of Sacramento's government speech. I will speak a little bit about the process as to why we're here and how this item has gotten before you. And then we have in the room as well, we have Zach Trowbridge, who is the person who has made this request, and he will also address the Commission to talk about why he has put forward this request. So the process, just briefly, originally in the summer, we had the protests that occurred during the summer, and a Black Lives Matter sign, the same sign that we're proposing to put at Mcclatchy Park, was put over at Curtis Park. But it was vandalized, unfortunately. Zach, who was the person that created that sign, retrieved it and preserved it, and it is available and is able to reinforce it so that it can be replaced at Mcclatchy Park. And he can talk a little bit more about the community input and the request that he received for that. When I received the request from Zach to place it at Mcclatchy Park, because it wasn't permitted at Curtis Park, got removed, we talked, we were in touch. The request came through to go through the process to get it authorized to be placed at Mcclatchy Park. I consulted with City Attorney's Office as well as the Convention and Cultural Services, because this is a unique request, and it was a sign. It's not an operational sign. And I thought, okay, there's a process for placing public art in public spaces, and I thought maybe that might be the process. But we talked about that a little bit, and there is a criteria which this sign, which is a literal sign, it's a literal statement, didn't quite meet. So we decided the best process to go through would be to bring it to the Commission, because it's being asked to be put at the parks. And there's also the need for it to go to Council, because we need for Council to adopt it as government speech. And the reason for that is so that we don't just create a free-for-all where anyone can come in and put anything, any statement, any sign within the park. So it has to go through a process, and it has to go to Council ultimately for them to be able to adopt it as government speech. So that's the process in rough sketch. And I have consulted with the City Attorney Office because of the sensitivity of the issue and the concern about, well, is this, how do we have a process so that it doesn't open up a forum, if you will, where anyone can place anything within the sign. And I think this is the process that is appropriate for it to go through. I will share with you that I have received inquiries about this request from the media. There was an article that was published in the SACB, and I shared that with you earlier today with the Commission, and we've added that in the package as well. So you have that background information there. I also received a couple of emails, not through the comment section of the Commission, but I have received comments from a couple individuals who are not in favor of placing this sign, I would say, based on the language in their emails. So I wanted you to be aware of that as well. Other than that, I would ask Zach to address the Commission and speak to the reasons why he has brought this request forward, so that you can understand the context and the reason for this.
Thank you, Mario. Hi, everyone. It's my first time presenting at a commission, so be patient with me. I'm going to break the cardinal rule and read a little bit, but I'm excited to be here before you today, so thank you for your time. My name's Zach Trowbridge, and I know what you're thinking. Here's a white, cis, hetero presenting man here to talk to us about Black Lives Matter, right? So I would just ask that you hear me out and be patient with me for a few minutes to give you some background on me and the sign. But a little bit about me. I'm the vice president of the Hagenwood Community Association up in District 2. I'm an advocate for survivors of sexual assault, human trafficking, and domestic violence through an organization called Stand Up Placer. I'm a child rights activist. I work 9 to 5, I'm a nonprofit IT manager for a local animal-related nonprofit. And finally, I'm a hobby woodworker, which is why I'm here today. So I've been asked a lot, why did I feel really drawn to create this project? And if you haven't looked through the notes, you know, there's some good images there of what it did look like and what it will look like, a little different than it did. And the best thing I can boil it down to is that I try to live my life by two guiding principles. First one is, if you can do good things for other people, you have the moral obligation to do those things. And the second is, history has its eyes on you. Spider-Man and Hamilton, yes, I'm a millennial. I'm here today to talk about the piece I made back in late May 2020. I call it Project Say Their Names. If you haven't seen it, it's a large wooden sign that says Black Lives Matter. Laid out end to end, it would be about 24 feet long, and it contains written on it the names of 347 Black people who were killed by police while they were unarmed. The final structure that we're asking to install at Mcclatchy will be about 16 feet wide, because we're going to stagger the words, and just under 6 feet tall. I made this piece right after the George Floyd murder in an effort to use the hobbies that white privilege has afforded me to create something hopefully meaningful and important to the Black community. So I've done my best to take a back seat to the sign so that I, as a white man, am not, getting in the way of Black voices being heard. I hope it's understood that I'm here tonight simply just as a caretaker of this project, not as the owner. I believe that this piece is really owned by all the names on the sign, and I believe it really just belongs to the Black community itself. So why does this matter now? A word I've heard more times in the last 6 months than in the previous 10 years of my life is the word unprecedented, right? Politics, healthcare, pandemic, government relief, government shutdown, unprecedented, everything's unprecedented. Sort of feels like, how many unprecedented things can I have happen in a year? Well, I'm hoping to add one more. And I think the importance of this sign right now is definitely unprecedented in my opinion. Mario and I went back and forth quite a bit when we were working out the details of the best way to get this sign installed at the park, and the importance of what we've arrived at and are trying to accomplish, I think cannot be overlooked. So I'd really like to highlight that. I think Mario just spoke to it really well. Our goal by bringing this project before the commission and hopefully city council next is not only to get permission to build this monument to Black lives lost to police violence, but bigger than that, for the entity that is the city itself to adopt this as government speech on the park land. Now I'm just a 28-year-old, but it seems to me that the city itself saying Black Lives Matter would set a new precedent that is far past due to be set. The fact that building a public monument to Black lives lost to police violence is unprecedented is frankly disturbing in my opinion, but a friend once told me that the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago and the second best time is now. Now is the time for the city of Sacramento to publicly affirm that Black Lives Matter, and this is one way to do it. So to the Black community, thank you for receiving this piece so well and allowing me to make it. Thank you to the Oak Park Neighborhood Association for your letter of recommendation that we move forward with this project. That meant a lot to me. Thank you to Black Zebra Media for your channel of communication and help with direction and ideas on this piece and where it should go. Thank you to Mario Lara for connecting the dots and really making this project happen and getting us to this point. Thank you to Jay Chenier for your support for this project. And thank you to the SACB and Cap Radio for your coverage just in the last couple of days. So I hope this commission and city council will see the meaning of this piece. I hope each of you sees the value of remembering and saying each of these names of Black people who did not survive systemic racism and its roots in policing. I really implore you to take the unprecedented step to affirm your belief that Black lives do in fact matter. I hope you see that this piece called Say Their Names belongs to the Black community and agree to move forward with its approval for installation in Mcclatchy Park, the community gathering place in Sacramento's most historically Black community of Oak Park. You all have the ability to do something good for an entire community of people, and I believe you have the moral obligation to take this unprecedented action and approve this project. History has its eyes on you. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Before we get started with commissioner comments, I'd like to ask if the clerk, if we have any members of the public who would like to speak on this item.
Yes, we have a few public comments. Let me transfer them.
Thank you.
Oh gosh. Hi, welcome. You have 2 minutes to address the commission. Please introduce yourself. Thank you.
Hi. Yes, hi, thank you. My name is Mrs. Jones. I live in D5, and I want to say that I support item 5, the installation of an art piece, Black Lives Matter. I support the installation of that. I wanted to say that based on a suggestion I was given by a friend who let me know about this meeting, that the suggestion is possibly thinking about placing it on Fifth Avenue, which is the entrance to the park, not in necessarily the places that were recommended on the attachments to this item. On Fifth Avenue, there are, like I said, the entrance to the park, to the big park, Mcclatchy is right there, and there are some bikes, rental bikes, jump bikes. To the right of those bikes would be a good place for this because it would be a good place for it to stand alone as its own piece. We don't want it in any cluttered areas or in any background areas. The reason the corner is not necessarily the best spot is because the corner has the park signage, and we don't want it cluttered. We want it to be a standalone installation, and I do support the installation of the Black Lives Matter sign. I also wanted to go on record, though, to say I'm disappointed that the artist, Zach Trowbridge, I believe is the name, didn't contact our local chapter of Black Lives Matter Sacramento. I think that as an artist, as a non-Black artist specifically too, it would have been a lot nicer and should have been done that the artist should have contacted the local chapter we have here at Black Lives Matter Sacramento and let them know about this installation and discuss it with them too. Not just OPNA. I seen an OPNA attachment, and while that's great, I don't know if this artist contacted South Oak Park Community Association. I don't see an attachment there regarding that. So OPNA isn't the only thing that represents the Black community in Oak Park or in Sacramento. And so I just want to put that on record too, that I'm disappointed that the artist didn't reach out to Black Lives Matter Sacramento about a Black Lives Matter installation. But I do support it going in to the big park, Mcclatchy. Thank you. That's
Thank
all.
You. She hang up. Next caller, please. Trying to connect the next caller. 1 second. Hi, welcome. You have 2 minutes to address the commission. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Tanya Faison. I'm the founder of Black Lives Matter Sacramento. I'm calling in support of putting this sign up inside of Mcclatchy Park. The reason that I think it's important that it goes up is because this is a heavily gentrified neighborhood. We have a lot of unhoused folks due to the displacement of Black folks in this neighborhood. We've got a lot of folks that have gentrified the area, and then we have a lot of policing. So I think that it's a good idea to put this sign up in this park to remind everybody that's in Oak Park that Black lives do matter. One thing that I wanted to say is I wanted to Zach basically is I wanted to make sure that on this signage that the 20 names in Sacramento of people killed by law enforcement is included on the sign, which includes the 2 names that happened just in January 15th and January 30th, which is Kershawn Geiger and Carl Walker. I know that you said that you named people that are unarmed, but a lot of times law enforcement does say that folks are armed when they are in fact unarmed. So be mindful of that as well. The one thing, well, then I'll suggest to the location, like the last caller said, is I'd like to see it to the right of the jump bikes. That area is in the front of the park, but it's not next to the circus-looking entryway, so it doesn't look like clutter. And it does stand alone, and it stands out, and it's highly visible, which is important. If we're going to put such a big monument inside this park, it should be very, very visible. And then the last thing is, I really wish that it would have been a Black person that was tapped on to do this or had the opportunity to do this. We have so many incredible Black artists in Sacramento, and it's not, I think part of the problem is the fact that you do have privilege back, so that has brought you into this space in this moment with approval and letters of recommendation from Oak Park Neighborhood Association, and you have this opportunity to do that. But
please conclude your thoughts. You have 2 minutes over. Please conclude your thoughts.
Okay. I long for the day when Black folks are treated the same. So that's all.
Thank you. Next caller, please. Hi, welcome to the commission. You have 2 minutes. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Katie Maple, and I'm a resident of Oak Park in District 5 and an Oak Park Neighborhood Association board member. I want to lend my full support to the installation of a Black Lives Matter sign at Mcclatchy Park. At a time where we are reaching deep into our collective consciousness and coming to terms with the long history of racial injustice in this country, Black Lives Matter represents a movement that unequivocally denounces white supremacy and systemic racism. By installing this sign, we send a clear signal to the community at large that we value Black lives and will protect and support them. I urge your support. Thank you.
Thanks. Next caller. Sorry, trying to connect the other one. Hello, welcome. You have 2 minutes to address the commission. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Robin. I am from Sacramento, and I just want to say that they should go ahead and put the Black Lives Matter sign at Mcclatchy Park. I think it's a nice gesture. They should, in the future, have like a permanent installation somewhere in the city, ideally commissioned by Black artists in the community, and not just make the art like a statement, but actually use more funding to actually support the idea behind Black Lives Matter, and reinvest in the Black community that has made Sacramento so great, like trying to undo some of the really, really sad things we're seeing happening to the Black community in Sacramento through gentrification, and now, with COVID happening, a lot of people are getting evicted, a lot of low-income people are being displaced, but this sign is a good gesture. I think it could be placed maybe in a different location, because I know a lot of people hang out at that spot, but I don't really know where the best place for that would be. But yeah, I think it's a great idea and a great sign. Couldn't hurt, but I think there's more that we could do to help as well. Okay, that's all.
Great, thank you. One more caller.
Yeah, bye.
We have one last call on the line. Hello, welcome. You have 2 minutes to address the commission. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Jenny Davidson, and I am speaking tonight to just encourage Sacramento to move forward and do the installation of this sign. It's such an important time to make sure that we are all in alignment, as we know that Black Lives Matter is nominated for a Nobel Prize. Now's the time to really be making this statement. And I think denying this as a government speech would be denying that Black lives actually do matter. I think now is the time that you have to say yes to things like this. And the way that you let the community know that Black Lives Matter is by saying yes and installing a sign that asserts those values. Thank you.
That's it, Jagged. That's all our callers that we have.
Thank you very much, Clark. So at this time, I'd like to invite commissioners to provide comment.
Am I allowed to chime in with 2 quick clarifications that I just wanted to make in response to some of the calls? Both positive, don't worry. I just wanted to really quickly say, I don't think I covered it in my overview, and I think it's really important because 2 callers brought up that, you know, why is a white artist making this, right? And I think it's important for everyone to know that I wasn't commissioned to make this. The city didn't ask me to make this. I wasn't, you know, compensated for it or anything like that by the city. I just made this on my own, and then now I'm, you know, offering it to be placed on city property. So I would fully agree that a Black artist should be commissioned to make something like this before a white artist, but I just want to make sure I have that clarification. And then I love the idea of a different spot for it. I'd love to check that out. The only limitations we have are underground piping, watering, you know, water lines and electrical, so not always possible, but definitely we'll take that to heart. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zach. Do we have any commissioners who would like to speak on this item? Commissioner Guerrero?
Hi, thank you. Thank you for that presentation. I do have a couple of questions for the artist. Outside of this art project, what is your involvement in the actual Black Lives Movement?
Ooh, great question. Yeah, so I would say I've always been like somewhat an activist, but not as involved in this like specific issue as I wish I could say that I have been. But what really spurred me to create this was, you know, the murder of George Floyd. So that was like the big beginning of it. And since then, you know, it's been, you know, being involved in all the protests and trying to support as much as I can there. Donating to, you know, nonprofits. I have another project underway that I'm hoping to make a fundraiser for a couple different Black-run, you know, nonprofits that are specifically to benefit the Black community. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Who's racist?
Also doing a lot of work with in my actual 9-to-5 work, trying to, you know, ensure that, you know, we're abiding by, you know, anti-racist policies and stuff like that too.
I have a couple of follow-up questions. So why did you not contact the local leadership of the Black Lives Matter? So
yeah, great.
Your input in the time you've been permitted, a number of meetings, the time of all the commissioners here, had you contacted them, a representative of Black Lives Matter could have been heard and spoken without being cut off. Unfortunately, because they were not here, or invited to be part of this presentation, they were limited. Black Lives Matter, who's the movement you are celebrating or bringing attention, was limited to 2 minutes.
Yeah, David, I think that's a great question. And my response would be, I did work with a prominent local, Black-led, group called the Anti-Police Terrorism Project. I did work with them, and I did work with another group I'm familiar with called Black Zebra, who is a great voice to connect, to some of the local Black community. But I think your point's totally valid. As soon as I heard someone bring that up, I thought to myself, that's a fantastic point. I wish I would have connected with those people beforehand. I wish, that I would have been great if a commissioner would have noticed that and brought that up and tried to, connect the dots there. So yeah, I think that's a great point and definitely something I dropped the ball on.
Yeah, unfortunately, as far as the commission, we're not allowed to comment on this outside of the public opening. So I don't think a commissioner could have contacted you. I hope if this does move forward, I'm not sure, but if it does move forward, when you present at the city council, that you join with the Black Lives Matter local leadership and have them the opportunity to speak there, since they were denied the opportunity here. As far as our piece itself, I want to clarify, and callers have called in referring to the art piece, but let's make the clarification that is not an art piece as being protected and maintained by the city. According to the agenda, what I read, if it's vandalized or something happens to it, it's not clear as to, what time frame is permitted for the repair. Are they going to contact you? How does it stay up?
Yeah. So first I would push back on the statement that the local Black Lives Matter group was not allowed to be a part of this, because there was no conversation happened. It's not that we said, no, you cannot be present for this. It's just that we didn't connect the dots there. And that's a problem, right? And then secondly, yes, you're correct that I am taking full responsibility to maintain the sign and replace anything that's damaged and, foot the bill for all of that myself. That is correct. And Mario and I have discussed what those timeframes could look like. I don't think that it's in this proposal, but we have discussed that definitely at length. And he's been very clear with me of what his expectations are.
It hasn't been done. It wasn't included in this package because, I had a certain time frame to get to agenda. But if this does move forward, the intent is to enter into an agreement with Zach, obviously, and a 6-month time frame, and review after the 6-month time frame to see how it's holding up and how things have worked out. That was the intent that we discussed.
Okay, and I'll continue to use my privilege as a commissioner to give my thoughts on this project. If you hear, I think the Black Lives Movement deserves a space more respectful of the movement. It would be nice to have a permanent art structure, somewhere where somebody can go and reflect or learn about the movement or learn about these issues inside a public park. I know other cities do it all over the place. In Sacramento, we have the Capitol, so we have memorials there, and those are beautiful. It would be nice to see something like that here in the city park, especially for the movement. Black Lives Matter has been involved in removing some of the statues of people that found to be oppressive or were oppressive. And that conversation continues on as to, what are we going to replace those statues with? What are we going to replace the art with? And this is an opportunity to discuss that. And I hope when you, advance this idea and speak with the city council, that these are items that you bring up. The idea of a permanent art structure. The idea of something respectful to the movement itself.
I believe that's covered in this original proposition, that there's an idea of making something very similar to this permanent out of metal at Oak Park or something like that. So mentioned, but not in detail. And I agree, it would be great to have something more permanent that would be a forever testament, right?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I now see that Vice Chair Lavelle has his hand raised.
I think there might have been a couple other hands that got incidentally lowered at some point.
Okay. We'll go to Commissioner Flores after you.
So if anybody thought they had it up. Make sure you still do. First, let me just say clearly and unequivocally, Black Lives Matter. Second, thank you, Zach, for doing this. It's an important statement, and I thank you for making it. Third, I have some concerns about the proportions of the structure. It sounds like it'll be pretty much the perfect size for climbing on, and however innocently, this could lead to accidental damage and some really hurtful misunderstandings, given the context of the risk for deliberate damage with racist intent. So as we're finalizing the design and construction of the sign, anything we can do to make it less compelling to climb on and resilient when, not if, that happens would be really helpful. And then fourth, as the caller and Commissioner Guerrero says, I hope the city will actively look for options for a permanent monument to commemorate this important statement, the time, and the movement, of course, designed by a Black artist. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Commissioner Mehta.
I think Commissioner Joe had raised hand before.
Yes, he has to be delayed. Go ahead, Commissioner Mehta.
Okay, I just wanted to say, as a woman of color, I fully support the Black Lives Matter movement and the message. And I'm happy to see that the community members and the council members support this vision. So yes, I'm in for it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Flores?
Thank you, Chair. Good. Hey, Zach, thanks for joining us tonight. This is a very important topic. Yeah, it is unprecedented, but this commission, time and time again, over this past several years especially, we're no stranger to speak from our value system, from all of our lived experiences, to make decisions like this, to step up to the plate and not be afraid of the moment, knowing that history is looking at us. You can already see in tonight's meeting alone the passion that each of the commissioners do bring on the various topics. Whatever the topics on our agenda, we see it from all of our lenses collectively and then make the recommendations to move forward with that. So, it goes back to, I think, Commissioner Aguilar, maybe 3 years ago now, when you had your passionate speech about Favela Park and how we have to look at these issues from all of our lenses and hats and lived experiences when these issues come to our commission. So I want to acknowledge that we have acted in these, when the moment presents itself, we acted in that way. Because this is a District 5 issue, in a typical year or typical times when we can gather, this would have been an excellent opportunity. I'm not going to speak for OPNA or any other groups per se, but this would have risen to the level of a community gathering, a community meeting, with a council member Chenier co-hosting, all the appropriate groups to co-host. By no means am I excusing that from because of COVID, but I think, should we move this item forward in the interim between commission to council, maybe that's the opportunity, Zach, to touch base with the identified groups that were mentioned in tonight's public comments. I did quickly text a person that I've been in contact on this issue from OPNA. I was like, hey, did South Oak Park get contacted officially from a neighborhood association perspective? I guess they, like I said, there may have been not the official communications, but people on that board are supportive of this item. So maybe that in this interim, maybe get that letter officially of support, but it seems like members of that association are in support. So I don't think that's the issue. I think it's just actually getting that physical letter, right? As a neighborhood association president myself, I know the power of that community support, that power of that letter on an item like this. And so, like I said, I'd like to try to do my due diligence on District 5 issues, especially ones that have extra sensitivities and extra media attention or extra eyes on an item. Typically, we don't have phone calls, but I'm proud that we had like several emails on items not on the agenda or items on that calendar agenda, and then had about 5, 6 calls tonight. And obviously it's gone without, it's already gone that the council member office is in support. I had conversations with Allison and Jay about this, and then obviously Zach and Director Lara, you had conversations with them, so that, it checks mark on the checklist of, hey, how do we vet, how do I personally vet a project topic like this? And then in that vetting process, I made a phone call to Director Lara. I talked about the project from the physical standpoint, right? Like, is this, like Vice Chair Lavelle mentioned some of his concerns, is the actual physical structure of this item, right? Like, if a kid climbs it, and I think it's like 6 foot, whatever the height is, if a kid does fall, he's not breaking, or they are not breaking their necks, right? Like, there was actual questions about that there's a reason why some of these lower playground meets some of those age standards, right? If a kid falls, they can sustain it when they land in the rubber or the foam and the impact material, right? So like, let's be mindful of, it may not be in the presentation itself, but like, that physicalness of the structure itself. Because we can also, I wanted to hear your comment, Zach, tonight, and that's the next level of vetting. Yeah, we didn't connect per se because I was trying to vet from other sources and inputs, and because everyone else has already talked to you, it was already in the supportive, direction. So it's like, okay, he's going to come to Director Lara said you got the Zoom invite. I'd like to hear comments like that. I'd like to hear the public comments before I even make my final decision. And listening to what Commissioner Barreto said, I support all the the viewpoints that we all bring to items like this. I do have a question for Director Lara, and you kind of alluded to it in your presentation, so maybe let me ask it more directly. What are policies that is guiding some of your direction, right? You mentioned that you went to the Arts Commission or the Community Commission, and then it got kicked back down to our commission, which is fine. I love anything that, if it's going to be attached to a park, of course it should be in our purview, but, because this is a one-time ask tonight, what sets of policies or guidelines and your personal checklist or the agency's checklist in this, and if there's not a set of policies, maybe there's an opportunity here to help codify. So it's not a one-time request going forward. Now, maybe there's an opportunity to kind of fix this. So it's not now, we can point to it. So maybe Director Lara, you can speak to that a little bit.
Thank you, Commissioner Flores. I searched for a policy that I could apply to this unique request. And again, the closest thing that I could come to was that this resembled to me an artistic work that the requester wanted to put in a public space. And that is why I consulted with the department that is in charge of that process, putting art pieces in public spaces, but it didn't quite align with that either. And so no, there isn't a clear black and white policy to guide this process, but in consultation and looking at that process, because it's atypical, it's not an operational sign, it's not a part of the park design elements, it's not a park amenity, if you will, that would normally come through the design process. This is the appropriate route, is to bring it to the commission for consideration and then to take it to council. And I think we perhaps could codify this into a policy. And I have been having conversations with, I'm pulling a blank on his name, but staff members from the Department of Culture to talk about, hey, how do we do this? Because we have art pieces in parks spaces, and how do we make sure that we communicate? I know it goes through a process with the Arts Commission, but I also need to update the this commission when it does impact a park. So we're working through that, and we're trying to figure out a way. We don't want to create too much of a bureaucratic process. But I think, yes, there is room to codify this and perhaps outline something that we can document and have for future of any other similar requests that may come forward in a process.
Hey, Mario, I just want to add, because when we did have discussions with the Convention Cultural Services staff, they recognize they don't really have a procedure and policy about these temporary pieces of artwork people want to put on city property. And so they were talking about putting together a policy, working with parks to talk about what's the process going forward with other requests similar to this. So we are going to be working on a policy, so I'm trying to tell you.
Thank you, Cheryl, for that, and thank you, Director Lara. So maybe there's an opportunity here outside this item where, you know, executive team members from Parks, Cheryl's representation, and the chair and vice chair to try to come up with that collective, hey, if it didn't meet certain thresholds, maybe we identify that. So maybe I wanted to allude that to the calendar discussion. Maybe that's a calendar item or, you know, a policy item to explore going forward. So I want to wrap that up and for direction for you, Director Lara, to explore that with the chair and other appropriate YPSI staff for that. But going back to this item, and I appreciate the commissioners thus far not making the motion to approve this. You know, thank you for that. So I can have that opportunity. I do see other commissioners, you know, with their hands up. So maybe Chair Good, as you go the next couple of commissioners, if you can come back to me so I can make the motion. I would like to make the motion, but I do want to hear the full conversation before a motion is made on this item. I think I got to most of my points. I want to thank everybody who called in support and left messages, and even those who sent emails to Director Lauer too, because you know, at least that means people care about their parts one way or the other. So I'll stop there, but I think, yeah, I do want to hear a couple more inputs from our commissioners.
Thank you. Commissioner Aguilar?
Hey, sorry, just really quickly, Joe, I really appreciate everything you said and everything else everybody said. I just want to echo the comments that were made and fully support the installation of the sign in the park. But also, I know there was a comment about maybe looking at potentially having some sort of permanent installation somewhere that can be commissioned by, you know, a local Black artist or, you know, and can be sort of discussed, you know, at a macro level. And, you know, so I just think that is important. And so that idea would be great to sort of pursue potentially in the future. And then also like the idea of somebody mentioned, you know, statues that are coming down and those types of things. I do think that Sacramento has a place in that conversation as well. And so we should be thinking about, you know, not only taking down things, but putting up new things as well that can, you know, just for people to know the history of what happened in the city and what happened just in general. So I really appreciate, Zach, you putting the work in and creating the piece. And yeah, thanks so much for allowing me just to speak.
Thank you. Commissioner Guerrero?
Hi, thanks for coming back to me. I think that I wasn't going to motion Commissioner Polaris, so you take that out. And I do appreciate the words you made, and I know, you know, you're a good guy. So, you know, I'm behind this. Black Lives Matter representatives from Sacramento called in. They voiced their support. So I'm good with this. But before you motion, I would like that the motion include that once this moves forward, that the leadership of Black Lives Matter is involved in this project from this point on. And they are represented when they reach the city council. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. And so I see no other hands raised at this time. I do want to thank the community for their input this evening. Your voice is important in this process. And Zach, I wanted to thank you for your commitment to our community and to social justice through your words and your work. I had the opportunity to see you, and perhaps it was you, with Mario and a few other staff a few weeks ago at Mcclatchy Park in the rain, with the letters out on the grass. And it took everything I had not to stop and say, hey, what's going on, guys? But it was exciting to know that this symbol was a possibility in our city. And now is the time. And as it was noted today, this sign will serve as a community affirmation and ongoing challenge to all of us in the city of Sacramento, and that Black lives do matter. And so I wanted to share that I support the recommendation to move forward with an approval by this commission. And so at this time, I believe that Commissioner Flores, you wanted to make the motion, and then I'll ask for a second.
Thank you, Chair Good, and thank you, Commissioners, for the privilege of making the said motion via the District 5 seat. You know, I just sit in the District 5 seat, and that's why that level of vetting, that decision takes it off of Joe Flores' hands, and it's the District 5 motion. So I appreciate and thank you for that. I do want to make maybe a note to Director Lara before I make the motion. Yeah, I would echo what Commissioner Guerrero said as we move as the motion occurs. I know, Mario, you mentioned a sunset time of 6 months, but maybe in the final contract language or relationship language, maybe a possibility of an extension, but also director's discretion should, you know, it become vandalism happens or something, that there's at least a couple of trigger points to either extend it for more time or it may have to not make the 6 months. So however that final language here, I would like to at least make that notation. So with that, I would like to make the motion to approve this item to move it forward to City Council with the notations made by all tonight. Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you. And so, Cheryl, I wanted to ask, are we clear with the motion?
Well, is your motion then to recommend the City Council to approve the sign placement and accept the sign as City of Sacramento's government speech, what it says? In second report, right? Okay, yeah. And then Maureen and I will work on the license agreement between now and going to council, so we understand what the terms and conditions are for SAC.
I want to be did the motion also include to definitely include Black Lives Matter's representatives at the presentation to council, and as well to recommend to council to consider commissioning an artist, or because those comments were made.
Well, I think what we can do in the staff report is reflect that first, Zach, I think, needs to reach out to Black Lives Matter and decide how they're going to do the presentation, because he's really the one asking for the sign, and he should bring them in just like he brought in the Oak Park Community Association, right? And then when we conclude the staff report that, you know, putting this up on a temporary basis, but because of the public support, the council may consider asking the Arts Commission to go ahead and find some money to do a permanent installation, commissioning a Black artist, you know, locally in Sacramento to do it. So, you know, I think this might lead to that, you know, when they get public support when they see it. But, you know, it's up to the council to ask the commission, Arts Commission, and allocate funding actually to do that. So.
Okay, so I want to make sure that we're clear on the motion. And so the language is that motion to recommend to the City Council to approve the sign placement by accepting the sign as the City of Sacramento's government speech, and include for the artist to include discussions with the Black Lives Matter group, and include within the language of the agreement that there is an opportunity to have an extension or a art piece commissioned by the Arts Commission by a Black artist. And we have a second by Commissioner Herman.
Yes.
Thank you. And so with that, we'll ask the clerk to please take a roll call vote.
Commissioner Aguilar.
Aye, or yes, whatever one. Aye.
Commissioner Flores.
Aye.
Chair Good.
Aye.
Commissioner Guerrero.
I'd like to make a motion to substitute. I'd like to clarify the language as far as not the artist contacting Black Lives Matter, but the Black Lives Matter leadership is represented at the city council meeting when this item is presented.
Commissioner Herman?
Aye.
Oh, wait, let's wait.
Wait, my friend.
So what you're saying is that you're asking for friendly amendment that we have to have the Black Lives Matter representative agree to be part of the presentation of the city council for this to go forward. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So Zach has to get them to agree to participate with Zach before it can go to the council.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
So what you're saying,
yourself.
So you're saying is before we can move forward, before this matter can move forward to the city council, we need Zach, or perhaps it's our department, to contact Black Lives Matter to get them to be a co-sponsor for this proposal and to be part of the presentation in front of the city council. That's what you're asking. Is that correct, Mr. Grove? Commissioner Grove?
Yes, it is.
So it's up to Chair Flores to agree to amend his motion to add that, but you have to go back and have everybody vote again on the revised motion because we're in the middle of voting on it. Or you can finish voting on this motion that Commissioner Flores did and then go back and do a second motion to add on to that or to modify it. It's up to you.
You can't take a friendly amendment on the motion?
They've already been voting on the motion. You can't change the motion after people start voting on it. So maybe what we should do is just vote on Commissioner Flores' motion, and then Commissioner Guerrero can do a second motion and ask for his motion to also be added to the recommendation and see if it passes.
My understanding on the motion to substitute is that once that's presented, we don't have a second.
No, you have to do the substitute before we start voting on the main motion. You can't wait till the middle of voting.
Oh, okay, I got you now.
You know, otherwise we have to agree and then go back and everybody has to vote again because it's a different motion now. So why don't we just finish this vote, and then I don't think it's a problem. You can do your motion and we can get clarity on your motion about what you're asking in terms of what happens if Black Lives Matter changes their mind or says they're not going to support this for some reason. Do you want it to stop? You know, that's the question.
Well, you want to put up a sign that Black Lives Matter doesn't support?
No. I'm just saying this. Let's just finish voting on this and then you can do your motion.
Okay, I'm just responding to your question. That's it.
And there was a second, and so move forward, clerk, please.
Yes. Commissioner Herman?
Aye.
Commissioner Mcclatchy? Vice Chair Lavelle?
Aye.
Commissioner Law?
Yes.
Commissioner Lowe?
Yes.
Commissioner Mehta?
Yes.
This motion passes, Chair Good.
Thank you. Okay, I see no hands raised.
So, Commissioner Guerrero, do you want to make your motion about about what you're asking about the, participation of Black Lives Matter in this going forward? Before we go to the council, what are you asking?
Yeah, so we amend the motion that we include.
No, it's a new motion. It's a new motion. It's a new motion.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we include Black Lives Matter representation when we put up a sign that says Black Lives Matter. And by including representation, I mean they should be actively part of this project and be present when this is presented to City Council. That's my motion.
Okay, just to clarify, if they wrote a letter of support, is that good enough, or do you want them to make sure that they're actually participating at the council meeting? I mean, it's up to them to decide how they want to participate, I think, but.
Yeah, I don't want to get into definition of active participation. I mean, I think all the commissioners get what I'm getting at. I just wanted it in writing. This is going to move forward.
They'll be coordinating with them, definitely.
I would like to second that motion. Thank you.
I'd like the motion clarified.
David? Oh.
Yes, I want the motion clarified, period. I'm confused. I'm sorry.
So the question is if Black Lives Matter does not give a letter of support and says they're not really supportive of this, they'd rather have a permanent installation by an artist, whatever. If they decide not to support this sign under these terms and conditions, does that mean the commission saying we can't go forward? How much of Black Lives Matter approval is required for this to go forward to council?
Is that direct? Are you asking me?
I'm asking you to clarify for the commission what your motion is. So we
Okay,
all
so the
understand.
question is directed at me. Okay, so I'll reword it a little bit easier. So for the commission, for the motion, I motion that Black Lives Matter be actively participating in the sign that's being put up for Black Lives Matter. And by actively participating, I mean that they be present during discussions and meetings. They be present when it's presented to the city council. Now, if they choose not to show up, or if they choose to provide support in the means of letter, that's fine. But they need to be given the opportunity to do that.
Okay, so it's an opportunity for them to participate. And it's their decision if they're going to write a letter of support or participate. But nonetheless, we'll go forward. But we're going to reach out to them and ask them to participate and ask them to give us a letter of support. Is that correct?
Can you repeat what you said? It sounded a lot better, a lot cleaner.
What your motion means to us is we're going to reach out, whether it's the Department or Zach, to Black Lives Matter, ask them to participate in this process, ask them to write a letter of support, ask them to come to the council meeting, participate in the presentation to support this sign. But we're going to ask them. It's not a mandate. If they say, no, I'm not going to participate, we can still nonetheless go forward.
Okay, yes.
Okay, so we're going to reach out. And I think they're going to support and want to participate based on who called. I'm just saying.
You know, I thought that was part of the original motion because that was part of the discussion, and I thought that got incorporated in the original motion.
Well, technically, he approved what was written in the staff report. So, I mean, sometimes you can just have a friendly direction to staff, but sometimes if you want to make it a clear motion, then you can make it a clear motion of what the commission expects. That we're going to try to get Black Lives Matter to participate in this process and be involved in the decision making and the presentation, etc.
That's correct. I know it's being over obvious, but unfortunately, Black Lives Matter was not included here to give their opportunity to speak as far as the presentation. They were limited to 2 minutes on the phone. I don't want that to be repeated at a city council meeting. So that's really the basis of this motion.
And so I have some commissioners that wanted to speak before I do. So we have Commissioner Lowe.
Yes, thank you. I concur that I absolutely agree that the leadership of Black Lives Matter should be involved in this process, but I do think it's excessive to have a motion specifically for that, and I think they should move forward regardless of, I think they should have the opportunity, but I don't think it should be mandated through a motion. So just, I wanted to make sure if this does move forward as a second motion, I don't think I'm going to support it because I think that this project should move forward regardless of, or I feel like it's an unnecessary motion, but I do concur with the idea. I just don't concur with the motion. I want to make sure I express that because I'm not planning on supporting this motion.
Can I respond to that, Chair? Good.
Well, we have Commissioner Lavelle.
He can speak before me if he wants.
Okay.
That's fine by me.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Commissioner Guerrero.
Okay, yeah. So our attorney gracefully cleaned up my language, so it's not, they have to be there. They have to be basically invited to the conversation. So yeah. So Commissioner Lowe, it's not the original one. It's the cleaned up version.
So the motion is to reach out to Black Lives Matter, to ask them if they would like to support this sign formally and to take a position and to actively participate in the matter before the city council presentation, and also to be involved with decisions such as placement of the sign. I think that's important too, right?
Yeah, and I just think that's unnecessary to be a motion. I think that could just be direction that we give staff that it should be done, but not actually as a motion. That's
the motion. That's the motion, and we need a second to the motion. Then we should discuss the motion once we have a second. We don't have a second yet, but with that clarification.
I thought Tyler seconded it.
Okay, it's okay.
Yeah, I can second again. No worries.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
I believe in both motions.
So I have Vice Chair Lavelle.
And I apologize. I should have said, I believe Commissioner Aguilar seconded it. My mistake. My apologies. My general sentiments are in line with Commissioner Lowe's. Got it right that time. Especially in the context, like my understanding is that Black Lives Sacramento is an informal organization, and I took one of the fun things about being remote and having your whole computer set up in front of you. I took a look at their website, and there's no board listed, no bylaws listed. It doesn't say that they're incorporated as a 501c3 or anything like that, which is in line with what I understood to be the case coming into this. And while I completely agree with the sentiment that the folks involved in Black Lives Sacramento should be involved in this, given the informality of that, it seems challenging to put a formal requirement on top to involve an informal organization. And so those are my thoughts on the topic.
Thank you. And then I see that Zach wanted to speak.
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to, but I would love to.
I know. I just wanted to check with Cheryl.
Yeah, of course. You go ahead and ask him.
I just wanted to say, I feel like I'm nervous that there's a thought that I, purposely tried to avoid a group being involved, and that's really not the case at all. And I'm, happy to reach out to as many groups as I possibly can to, now that we have some wheels turning here and some action of something potentially happening, I feel really encouraged to be able to reach out to more groups that really represent the Black community, in Sacramento, and try to get them involved and try to get their input and stuff. I feel great about that. Now, a week ago, this was just something I built in my garage to try to, add to a movement and try to be helpful. And, now it's something that's really becoming more real. And I would love to involve those groups. I would love to have those conversations. I'm nervous that, if I write a letter to like specifically one group that doesn't meet the standards of asking for, it seems like there's a lot of really specific questions that I have to check the box that were asked and stuff. And I just, I really want to involve these groups. I should not be the main point of contact for this, right? That's just how it's shaken out so far. So for whatever it's worth, I would love to reach out to specifically the Black Lives Matter Sacramento chapter, any other local, prominent groups in that community, in that conversation. I'd love, all of your input on local groups, that are involved in that. The more brains we have thinking about the best way to do this, the better it's going to be, right? So I just want to make sure everyone knows I'm not against involving as many people as possible in that.
Can I point out too that in the B article it said the organization Anti-Police Terror Project worked with Zach to place the sign at Curtis Park. So he did work with a group, but it's called Anti-Police Terror Project.
That's correct. Yep.
Thank you. Commissioner Guerrero, you wanted to say something else?
You're muted.
You're on mute.
It has to happen at least once every meeting, right?
Okay, you're muted right now.
Still muted, bud.
What the heck? Okay. So I did want to respond to the Black Lives Matter as far as the website. So, the Black Lives Matter is involved in they have a lot of people against them. So I can see why names are not posted. They have applied for 501 nonprofit status. I think it was in October last year, and they're still waiting for a response. I just want to put that out there so people don't think that this is an organization that's not being organized or it's loose. And then for the artist himself, what I'm trying to do is not have the same situation that occurred here occur at the city council meeting. And I know some commissioners have voiced that maybe it's a little too much, but unfortunately, technicalities have been the source of a lot of tension in the community. Reading something carefully, looking at it carefully to make sure it's not interpreted wrong or not interpreted in a way to somebody else's gain. All I'm trying to do is here is make it clear cut. Hey, you're going to ask Black Lives Matter leadership to participate in a sign that puts up Black Lives Matter. Now, if you were going to put, the other group's name up there, then that'd be fine. You spoke with them. But the words of Black Lives Matter means a lot. And the people that have fought for it, the people who have gone to the streets to protest, the people that have made significant changes to the way we live our lives, they should be involved. That's all I'm saying. And I want to make it clear cut. That's what we want.
So I just wanted to say that what I'm not clear on, Commissioner Guerrero, is that do you want the artist to contact the Black Lives Matter? Do you want staff to? I think that their participation in our phone call, obviously they are supportive of this endeavor and this effort. I feel that the artist did his very best, and I don't think that he purposely left anybody out. He was working to do something really good, and it is innovative for local government. I mean, what we're doing here, if you look across other large cities across the United States, it's not happening. And so it definitely, again, puts Sacramento in a place of being amongst the first. And so for that, I'm grateful. I just feel that when we start doing, when we start having motions to direct that this happen, I have no doubt it's going to happen. I have no doubt. So I just wanted to share that. I don't think that there was any malice in or intention to lead groups out. I think that it definitely has everybody aware, and I welcome the media getting involved. I think that we're all supportive of especially this group being very mindful about social justice and equity issues. And I think that this is one group that definitely has open conversations. So with that, I just felt I would share that I don't think that anyone was left out on purpose. And so with that, I'll need the motion clarified again, and we'll go back to the second and move forward because I'm still a little confused. Who is doing what? That's where I'm asking for.
Okay, so I think it's Zach who needs to contact Black Lives Matter to invite them to participate in this process of going to the city council and getting approval to put his sign in Mcclatchy Park, and ask if they want to be part of the presentation, and at a minimum ask them if they would write a letter of support.
And if they decline, we
already have the motion, the prior motion, Commissioner Flores' motion to go to council and make a recommendation for the sign. So we already have that.
Okay, thank you. One more comment by Vice Chair Lavelle.
How would staff verify whether or not Zach has done these things?
We will communicate with Zach, and I will even attend the meeting with you, Zach, or be on the call with you, Zach, when it occurs.
Once you figure out who you contact. Yeah.
And I appreciate the conversation for this because the details do matter. And I know that we want it to get done, and I know it'll get done. And so with that, we have the motion as by Commissioner Guerrero, as explained by our city attorney. And we have a second.
By Commissioner Aguilar.
Aguilar, thank you. And so clerk, if you can please do a roll call vote.
Commissioner Aguilar?
Yes.
Commissioner Flores?
I agree with the sentiment. No on the motion.
Chair Good?
I'm going to vote aye.
Commissioner Guerrero?
Yes.
Commissioner Herman?
Yes.
Commissioner Clarksman? Vice Chair Lavelle?
No.
Commissioner Law?
Yes.
Commissioner Lowe?
No.
Commissioner Mehta,
Yes.
this motion passes.
Thank you. And I would like to ask Director Lara, if you could please be involved in that discussion. I would honor that.
Absolutely.
I think it's important to help the artist, and I appreciate what we're doing here, and it says a lot. So thank you, Zach, for engaging in this process with us this evening, and thank you to the commissioners for your lively discussion.
Thank you all.
And so